Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Living Traditions Homestead. My name is Sarah. Well, recently our family bought our very first family milk cow. Her name is Hope. She is waiting very patiently to be milked. We are milking her twice a day right now. We're getting anywhere between 2 and 3 gallons of milk per day. And today I wanted to share with you a little bit of the milking process and a couple things that we've been very excited to start doing with all of her milk. But first, we need to start milking.
So within our barn we have an area sectioned off that is just for milking our cow. Nothing else goes on in this area. In fact, none of the animals are allowed in here except for when we're milking. Basically what we've done is we've separated this area off with a cattle panel and just a normal cattle gate, and then I made this milking stanchion for our cow to come up on. This is just made out of 2x4s and 2x8s, and then we have this rubber mat on the floor that helps her just be a little more comfortable and not slip if she were to go to the bathroom or if it's raining out. This helps her so she doesn't slide on the wood. Basically what happens is she just comes up, she walks right into the stand. Once she has her head over here and starting to eat, we just shut this, and there's just this bolt that goes through, and then that just stops her from being able to back out while she is being milked. We use a refurbished surge milking machine that is from back in the 1960s. They actually made these from all the way back 1922 up until the early 90s, I believe. But this one is from, I think, the 50s or 60s. And that's how we milk our cow every day.
We wash her up really well before we start. Make sure she's nice and clean. And we also squeeze out a little bit of milk from each teat to make sure there's no bacteria up in there that will get into our milk supply. But I make sure to take my time and wash her several times before we get started.
Once she's all cleaned up, we just turn on our pump, kink off these hoses until some pressure builds up inside the milking tank, and then these will go on and start milking.
Cows have 4 teats, and they have 4 separate sections in their udder. They're called quarters. They have 4 quarters. They're kind of like 4 separate breasts that are all one large udder, and they milk out separately. We start with the back 2 quarters, and then when those are empty and milk stops flowing, then we switch to these front 2 quarters. We have this hook here that's holding these milking lines up off the ground. It helps keep them away from her feet in case she moves around, that she can't step on them.
So once we're all done milking and we don't see any more milk flowing out, we just take everything back off. We unhook our pump from the milker. All of this goes back into our cart to head in the house so we can strain it and get it in the refrigerator.
She can go now.
Good girl, go get a drink. So once we're back in the house, we're ready to strain the milk. We basically have this big stainless steel strainer. These are made just for milk, and then we have a food grade bucket. Now down in the bottom of this funnel is we put one of these disposable milk filters, and that just sets down in the bottom and then gets clamped into place with this spring, and then we just pour our milk right through that, and it ends up down in the bucket, and then we'll put it into half-gallon jars. So let's go ahead and pour this milk in. Now the reason that you filter it is in case, you know, there were any like little hairs or anything that got in there while you were milking, which would be pretty rare since we use a milking machine. Everything is self-contained. It's a bigger problem if you're milking by hand, but we still strain it just to be safe. So once that strains all the way through, we're ready to put this right into jars and get it in the refrigerator so it can start cooling down. All right, so let's see how much milk we ended up with from just this morning's milking. Now each of these jars is a half gallon. So there we go, almost a gallon and a half this morning. So that is a good day for sure. And then we'll milk again tonight. We'll probably get another gallon or so tonight. So that'll be perfect. We'll get these in the refrigerator. We always put a date on them, put them in the refrigerator, and then by tomorrow they'll be ready to get the cream off of them.
Well, now that we're done milking and done cleaning up, I'm excited to show you how to make butter. We have a lot of milk on the homestead right now, which means we also have a lot of cream, and we have started making our own butter and we absolutely love it. I also love that I can stop buying it from the grocery store. I love it when I can replace something homegrown or homemade for the things that we've been buying at the grocery store. There are lots of different ways to make butter, but there are some that are way faster and way easier than others. So I'm excited to share with you today 2 easy and easier ways to make butter. But first, in order to make butter from your fresh cow's milk, you need the cream off of it. Now, cow's milk is not naturally homogenized, which means that the cream and the milk don't stay mixed together. The cream and the milk on cow's milk separates after a while. Now, this milk that I have here in this jar, this was today's milk. It is not separated yet. It takes some time. It takes about 24 hours for a good separation. This milk over here was yesterday's milk, and you can see if you look closely that the cream has separated. So all the way down here is milk, and from here up is cream. Now, we need to get that cream off because that's what you make butter out of. Butter is made from only cream. So I'm gonna share with you 2 different ways to get the cream off of fresh milk. Now, we have been doing this first way for years and years. Even though we just got our very first milk cow here on our homestead, we have bought fresh cow's milk from a friend for quite a while. We do have goat's milk, but when I wanna make butter, we buy fresh cow's milk. Now we've got our own cow, so we can get our own. So this way I've been doing forever, but then recently I discovered a trick that I'm so happy to share with you. Now, I understand that not everybody has a cow in their backyard like we do. You can make homemade butter from cream, heavy cream from the store, but it's not going to be as cost effective. Generally, cream from the store is more expensive than just buying butter. But if you want an experiment, or if you just want to try it, or if you want it for a homeschool project, buy heavy cream at the store and you can do it the same way, okay? So, this is our milk from yesterday, or some of our milk from yesterday, and I showed you the cream line, okay? At the very top of your cream is what is going to be called heavy cream, and there's a big consistency difference between the heavy cream and the kind of more liquidy cream underneath. Heavy cream sometimes is the consistency of sour cream. That's how heavy it is. Let me show you how thick this is. This is the heavy cream. Look how thick that is. It's almost like sour cream. So the whole layer on top is going to be that thick, that heavy cream. And then as you get out from there, as you get more and more of it out, then it will become a little bit more thin. Now, as you get closer to the milk line, you'll need to be more and more careful because the milk will start mixing a little bit with the cream. The color of the cream and the color of the milk are quite different. So when you start getting close to the milk line, you'll see it starting to peek through a little bit, and then you just need to be more and more careful. And this is really how easy it is to skim cream off the top of fresh milk. So I pretty much have all the cream off of this jar that I'm going to use. It was a pretty good amount of cream. Now, if you don't have a lot of milk and a lot of cream to strain, this is a fine process. Like I said, I've been doing this process for years, but now we have a lot of milk. And so this can be very time consuming for me when I have, 3 or 4 or 5 gallons or 6 or 10 jars of milk in the house. So I want to share with you a trick that we learned from a friend. His name is Hillbilly. Actually, he goes by Hillbilly, and he taught us this trick, and I want to share it with you because it is going to save me so much time. And if you end up having a ton of fresh milk on your homestead one day, remember this and give it a try. So we have a second refrigerator that we use to keep most of our milk, and that is where I'm going to show you the new trick that we've learned to separate cream from the milk now that we have a larger volume of milk. So let's go. So we're out in the garage by our second refrigerator, which is pretty much filled with milk right now. And I want to show you this that we have here. It's kind of like one of those iced tea jars that you can get at the store that has a spigot at the bottom. We couldn't find any of those, but we did find this, which is supposed to be for hosting parties. You can have a bunch of lemonade in there, or iced tea, or whatever, but it is perfect for holding lots of milk. This has about 3.5 gallons of milk in it right now, and you can see that all the cream has floated up to the top. All the milk is on the bottom. So all I need to do is hold my jar up here, open up the spigot, and all that's going to come out is milk. But at the very end, I'll have all of the cream completely by itself, so I can just pour that out into a different jar and use it right away. It's going to save me a ton of time. So out of all that milk that was in the container, we got just over 3/4 of a gallon of cream. So now we get to move on to making butter. Cream should be out on the counter for about an hour to warm up a little bit before you make butter. So while I'm getting everything out and everything ready, these guys are just gonna stay on the counter and warm up a little bit. So our cream has been setting out for about 1 hour, warming up. That gave me a chance to clean up a little bit and get everything else out that I need. So I've been making butter for a long time, and prior to just a couple weeks ago, I made butter in my KitchenAid mixer. I have a video about making butter in a KitchenAid mixer, and I will link to that right here. But today, I'm going to show you 2 other ways to make butter. My favorite, all-time favorite way now to make butter is in a food processor. It is so fast, so clean. There's not stuff flipping all over the place like in my KitchenAid mixer. And so I want to show you how to make butter in a food processor. I have a small food processor, nothing fancy at all. This food processor and a lot of food processors have a limit on how much liquid you can put into it. My food processor has a maximum liquid level, and the line is right here, and it's about 2 cups. Even though it can hold more food than that, actually the maximum fill line of, other kinds of food is way up here. So even if you have like a 10 cup maximum capacity, you want to read in the owner's manual and see if there's a liquid level maximum. And mine is way down here. Essentially, they're preventing liquid from getting down inside where your bowl is and leaking out all over the place. So that is a limitation that I have with my food processor. So I'm just gonna pour the cream into my food processor up to that line, and you do the same to whatever your maximum liquid level is. Put the top on, and I'm just gonna let it go. You're gonna see the liquid flip all over the place. Then you're gonna see it turn into whipped cream, and then all of a sudden, you're gonna see a huge difference. You're gonna see a spattering of the really watery buttermilk and the thick fat, the butter, starting to stick together. So let's show it. So it's done. Let's take a look. You can see the butter has completely separated from the buttermilk. And so now we need to strain the buttermilk off of the butter, and then we'll wash the butter. I know that sounds weird, but we need to wash all that buttermilk out from the butter so that it doesn't go bad very quickly. So first we need to get this out of here. I have a strainer over a bowl. The bowl is going to catch the buttermilk, and any butter that accidentally gets through there will be caught in the strainer. Okay, so inside there, that's all of our butter. Then we're gonna put this in a separate bowl. We're gonna wash the rest of that buttermilk out of there in a minute. The second super easy way to make butter is in a blender. And this is actually how I make all of our butter now, and I'll tell you why. I really like the food processor, but it doesn't hold a lot of cream. It won't make a lot of butter at one time, maximum 2 cups of liquid at a time. I have a lot of butter to make. I have a lot of cream. My blender will allow me to use 4 cups. Now again, every blender may be different, but the instruction manual told me that I can use 4 cups of liquid without really stressing it out, okay? So this is what I choose to use to make all of our butter here now in the homestead. Now, you can use any blender you have at home. So use what you have. Don't go buy anything new, okay? So I'm just gonna show you how easy this is. I can put 4 cups in here. Well, that was perfect. So I'm just gonna put the top on here and let it go. It's all done. Let's take a look. Pretty easy. Now we just need to strain out the buttermilk. Now again, we're gonna put the butter from in here into this bowl so that we can wash the buttermilk out of the butter. So all of our butter is in this bowl, and I'm gonna start adding ice water, ice cold water. I'm just gonna add, I don't know, a cup or 2 of water. The cold water will help the butter harden and kind of solidify more, which will end up making it easier to work with. I'm just folding the butter on top of it itself and kind of working my spatula down in it, pressing on the butter to squeeze out the buttermilk into the water mixture. I'm gonna keep doing this over and over. I'm gonna dump out the water mixture into the sink because we can't use it at this point, and add fresh water, and I'm gonna do that over and over until the water stays clear. At that point, we know that all the buttermilk has been washed out of the butter. Okay, I'm gonna dump this in the sink and add more fresh water. I'm done with all of the washing. I did about 3 or 4 rounds of fresh water and squeezing it, dumping it fresh water. About 3 or 4 times will do the job. It's at this point now that I'm gonna add salt. Salted butter will last a little longer than unsalted butter. The ratio of salt that you put in is determined by the amount of cream that you start with. So put in 1/2 teaspoon of salt at this point for every 2 cups of cream that you started with. So I started with 6 cups of cream, so I'm gonna put in 1.5 teaspoons of salt. I'm just gonna sprinkle this around, and then I'm gonna work it in with my spatula. At this point, if it's easier for you to use your hands and to knead it in, you can definitely do that. You definitely want to take your time and really work it in well so that you don't have like 1 bite of butter that is just filled with salt. That would be terrible. So I'm just gonna work on this until I feel like it is all mixed in. Okay guys, our butter is done. We just need to store it. I prefer to store the butter in these wide mouth 8-ounce or 1 cup jars. They're fantastic. It's easy to get the butter in and out of. I use these to store them right in the freezer, and then when I need another cup of butter, I take them out. Well, I'm all finished. We started with 6 cups of cream, and that made about 1 2/3 cup of butter. I have a lot of cream, so that proportion doesn't scare me at all. But when you think about buying your own whipping cream at the store to make butter, it may not make sense. But if you can get a hold of fresh milk from a friend, or if you have your own cow, this is amazing for your family, an amazing way to use up some of your milk. I want to say a special thank you to our friend Hillbilly, who gave us the fantastic idea of the easiest way on earth to strain your milk separated from your cream. It's amazing. I'm so glad that I'm doing it that way. Also, I want to know from you, if you had access to unlimited butter like we probably do now, what would you make? Give me ideas. There are some fantastic recipes to make with tons of butter, because we have tons of butter now, which is fantastic. You guys, thanks so much for spending some time with me today. If you enjoyed this video and if you're enjoying our channel, please hit the subscribe button. The best way for you to help us out is to share our channel, share our videos with other people who you think would enjoy them. And until next time, thank you so much for stopping by the homestead. Take care and God bless.